The snow fell like ash the morning Private Lukas Weber found the camera. It was half buried near a frozen trench, the lens cracked, the metal worn smooth by years of silence. His unit was clearing the remnants of an old battlefield in Eastern Europe, the kind of place where ghosts didn't need names anymore. When he picked it up, something about it felt alive, too heavy for its size, too cold for the air around it. His captain told him to toss it with the rest of the debris, but Lukas slipped it into his pack instead. He didn't know why. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the strange pull of a story that refused to die. Back at the base, he wiped the dirt away and noticed faint letters engraved under the lens. They weren't in his language, but he recognized the style, German, from the Second World War. 80 years of snow and silence had hidden it, but the name scratched on the back was still clear, Ernst Voller. He remembered hearing that name in history lectures, an army photographer who vanished in 1945 with thousands of undeveloped film reels. His work was supposed to have been lost forever. Lukas turned the camera over in his hands. The shutter still clicked. Something inside it moved. That night, when the lights went out, Lukas lay awake staring at the camera on his bunk. The base generator hummed softly, and somewhere in the distance a dog barked. He picked up the camera, twisted the side, and to his surprise, the film lever turned. Slowly, carefully, he opened the back panel. A single roll of film sat inside, brittle but intact. His heart pounded as if he'd uncovered a heartbeat from another century. He knew old film like this shouldn't survive, yet somehow it had. He sneaked into the communications room, where red emergency lights glowed faintly. There, with trembling fingers, he developed the first frame using the chemicals from the photo station. As the image began to appear, his breath caught. It wasn't a battlefield, it was a face. A woman smiling under a street lamp, her eyes bright, her uniform collar half-buttoned. Behind her stood soldiers laughing, their rifles slung carelessly over their shoulders. It looked nothing like the war Lukas had studied. It looked alive. Frame after frame revealed the same strange warmth. German soldiers dancing with locals, children playing near supply trucks, enemy prisoners sharing food with guards. It was a war without hatred, captured in impossible intimacy. Lukas stared at each image until dawn. It felt as if the camera had been waiting all these years to tell a version of history no one had wanted to believe. But in the last frame, the tone changed. It showed a man standing alone beside a burning barn, his shadow stretching long across the snow. He wasn't holding a weapon. He was holding the same camera Lukas had in his hands. And though the photo was 80 years old, the face in it looked exactly like Lukas. Lukas froze, staring at the image as if the air itself had stopped breathing. He brought the photo closer to the light, trying to find some logical explanation. The face staring back at him had the same sharp jaw, the same scar above the brow, even the same faint mark on the left cheek he'd carried since childhood. For a moment, the walls around him felt smaller, the red glow from the bulbs painting the room in ghostly color. He told himself it was coincidence, a trick of shadows, but deep down something whispered that coincidence didn't last 8 decades. He carried the photo to his commanding officer the next morning. The man frowned, looked at the print, and laughed it off. "People always think they see themselves in history," he said. "It's human vanity." Lukas nodded, pretending to agree, but the unease wouldn't leave. That night, he examined the rest of the negatives carefully. Most of them showed ordinary moments, soldiers cooking, men writing letters, but one shot caught his attention. In the corner of a photograph showing a crowded field tent, there was another image taped to a wall. Lukas leaned closer, squinting. The photo on that wall was the same picture he'd developed hours earlier, the one of the man holding the camera. He printed the rest of the roll, each frame darker than the last. The soldiers in the photos began to change. Their eyes no longer smiled. The same faces appeared in different places. Men who had died reappeared alive again in later images, standing behind others who should not have known them. It was as if time inside the camera refused to follow rules. The last shot was almost blank except for a faint outline. A figure walking through fog, holding the camera low, pointing it toward whoever would find it next. By the third night, Lukas couldn't sleep. He felt drawn back to the field where he'd found it. The snow had thickened, the wind cutting through his coat. He reached the spot easily. It was as if his feet knew the way. Kneeling, he brushed the snow aside until the frozen earth showed through. For a long while, Nothing moved. Then he noticed footprints that weren't his, pressed deep and fresh in the snow, leading away toward the woods. The trail ended at a single tree, its bark split from lightning long ago. Hanging from a branch was another photograph, new, untouched by weather. His heart thudded as he reached for it. It showed him standing exactly where he was now, hands stretched toward the tree, snow falling in the same pattern as in that very moment. The photo wasn't old. It was taken seconds before he arrived. He turned the camera over in his hands, and for the first time, he noticed something etched beneath the name. Time remembers the one who sees it. A gust of wind blew through the trees, scattering the snow. Lukas lifted the camera one last time and pressed the shutter. The flash lit the forest like lightning, and when the light faded, the clearing was empty. Weeks later, the search team found his pack beside the same tree, untouched by snow. Inside was the camera, its film compartment empty except for a single frame, freshly developed. It showed a group of soldiers clearing the field, one of them bending down to pick something from the ground. The man's face was clear, his eyes full of wonder, and the tag on his uniform read, Private Lukas Weber. The search party spent days combing the clearing, collecting what little evidence the snow had spared. Most thought Lukas had wandered too far and frozen in the storm, another lost name on a long list of forgotten soldiers. But one technician refused to close the case. His name was Pavel, a communications engineer obsessed with decoding the strange numbers scratched on the back of Lukas's last photo. He stayed late in the darkroom, replaying the camera's shutter sound over and over, convinced there was something hidden in it. On the fifth night, he noticed a faint rhythm beneath the click, a pattern of beats that didn't match the machine. He recorded it, slowed it down, and realized it was Morse code. The message was short, but it chilled him. I see you. The higher officers dismissed it as a glitch, but Pavel couldn't let it go. He developed every frame Lukas had taken, searching for anything out of place. One photo showed a wall of ice forming strange reflections. Another revealed an outline standing behind Lukas where no one had been. But the last image, the one recovered from the camera's automatic timer, was different. It showed the field exactly as they had found it, except in the corner was a man holding the same camera. Only now his uniform patch read a date that hadn't happened yet. Weeks later, the camera was locked away in a classified storage unit. Official reports listed Lukas Weber as missing in action, presumed dead. But 2 months after the file was closed, another patrol stumbled across a camera buried near the same tree. It was older, cracked, and marked with a new name scratched beneath the lens, Pavel Nowak. The camera was never opened again. The military locked it deep within a concrete archive, where dust covered secrets and silence replaced answers. But history has a way of whispering to those who listen. Decades later, a university researcher named Alina Novak stumbled across the classified file during a digitization project. She almost skipped it, just another forgotten relic from the war, until she noticed the last name on the inventory tag, Nowak. The same as hers. Curiosity led her to request the item. When the sealed box arrived, she opened it under the soft hum of laboratory lights. Inside was the same battered camera, its lens cracked but glinting faintly as if it still remembered light. She turned it over, brushing the dust away, and felt a strange pulse beneath the metal, a faint vibration, almost like a heartbeat. Her colleagues laughed when she mentioned it, but she couldn't shake the feeling that the object wasn't dead. Late that night, she stayed alone in the lab. Rain lashed the windows, thunder rolling like distant artillery. She connected the camera to a digital scanner, trying to capture what little might remain in the old lens. The moment she powered it, the lights flickered. The monitor flashed once, then displayed an image that shouldn't have been there. A field of snow, a broken trench, and a young soldier standing knee-deep in frost, holding a camera toward her. His name tag was clear, Lukas Weber. Alina froze, unable to breathe. She reached for the power switch, but before she could touch it, the screen changed again. A second image appeared, this time showing her own reflection in the lab window, but taken from outside. She turned around instantly, heart pounding. The window was empty. Only rain and her own shadow stared back. She printed the image, her hands trembling. In the corner, someone had scrawled faint words into the emulsion, the same phrase that had haunted every man who'd ever held that camera. Time remembers the one who sees it. The next morning, the lab was found dark, the scanner still humming softly. The camera sat open on the table, empty once more. And on the wall above the workstation hung a single new photograph, an image of the lab itself, taken from the same angle where Alina had stood the night before. The only difference was the figure in the center of the frame. It wasn't Alina. It was Lukas Weber, smiling faintly, holding out the camera as if offering it to whoever would find it next. Months passed before anyone dared reopen the file. The photo from Alina's lab had gone viral in quiet corners of academia. A mystery passed between historians who didn't believe in ghosts but couldn't explain what they saw. Some said it was an elaborate forgery. Others whispered that the camera itself was a portal, a witness to time that refused to forget. Eventually, it ended up in the hands of a documentary filmmaker named Marek Drost, a man known for chasing legends that blurred the line between truth and madness. Marek traveled to the old battlefield where Lukas had first found the camera. The place was still desolate, buried under snow, the wind cutting through the ruins like memory. He filmed everything: the broken trenches, the rusted helmets, the lone tree where Lukas's pack had been discovered. But when he reviewed the footage that night, he noticed something strange. In one frame, just behind him, a man stood near the edge of the trench wearing an outdated uniform. Marek rewound, paused, zoomed in. The man's face was blurred, but his outline held the same posture, the same stance, as the figure in Lukas's last photo. He thought it was pareidolia, a trick of the mind. Until the next morning. The batteries in all his cameras were drained, every file corrupted except one, a short clip, just 9 seconds long. It showed the same soldier, closer now, holding the old camera in both hands. Then the screen flickered, and Marek heard his own voice on the recording whisper, "Don't look away." Panicked, he left the site, but the footage wouldn't stop playing on his laptop. Even with no power, the image stayed. The soldier's face grew clearer with each loop until it became something impossible, his own reflection staring back through the decades. That night, in the frozen dark of his hotel room, Marek realized what Lukas, Pavel, and Alina must have felt. The camera didn't just record time. It carried it. It remembered those who had looked too long. The next morning, his room was found empty, the laptop still glowing faintly on the desk. On the screen was a single image: the snowy field, perfectly still, with Marek standing where the others once had. The camera hung from his neck, the strap marked with a name no one had seen before. It said Ernst Voller. If this story made you smile, share it with someone who needs a reminder that accidents can turn into beautiful beginnings.